morning, Healdsburg, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms, grandmas, great-great-grandmas out there. This is a special Mother's Day edition of our Live from Home series, and we are here to feature one of Healdsburg's moms and grandmas, Lorraine Ham. So we're doing Live from Home from her home. And we're happy to have Lorraine to talk a little bit about her life in Healdsburg, and how she's getting by during these times. So Lorraine, welcome. Good morning and happy Mother's Day.
Good morning, and thank you, Mark, for asking me to do this. I was born in San Diego, California. My parents came out in the 20s to seek better work because there was no work. The Great Depression had started, and that was they came out before I was born in 1926, and we moved shortly after I was born. We moved to San Jose, California, to find more work. My father found a few painting jobs because he was a painter and decorator by trade. And when that was over, there was nothing, so we moved on up to Oregon. And from then, for several years, we had to be working in the fruit. And we had special farms we went to, the same farms every year for several years. And the berries was up in Grants around Portland, Oregon. The family picked strawberries and raspberries. And then they picked apples one year, apples and cherries in Washington. And they picked prunes in Southern Oregon, little town of Riddle. And we rented a house across the street from where the school was going to be built. And every year we would go back and we'd have the same house. And a few years ago, my daughters and granddaughters and I took a trip, went up there. I took them in a little circle of where little old towns in the country were like. And we went to the little town of Riddle. The school is still there. They're still using it. And that was built. My father helped build that around 1932. And the house is on the register to be saved. And I was very proud to think that I could remember every single room in that house. And the bathroom, we didn't have a bathroom in the house, but there was a little building with a bathroom and a chain flusher. And I always loved to go out there and pull that chain. and then we had picked the prunes in the fall of the year at a family called Hensley, and they became one of our best friends. Then we went over, I don't remember the seasons, but they stripped hops in Grants Pass 1 or 2 years. And then they would keep making the circle for the raspberries and strawberries and prunes. And then in the middle 1920s, we had an opportunity to buy a home. The things after my dad got through working on the schoolhouse, when it was done, he decided it's time to settle down. So they went to a little country place and peeled piling, which is they peeled the bark off of the tree for telephone poles. They started saving money that way, and we got a down payment on a 30-acre farm, and we moved on that. And then my brothers and my father went to Klamath Falls, Oregon, to work in the potatoes, and they finished up. They made $300 that they saved, and that finished paying for the farm because it was $30 and 30 acres and $300 for the farm. And that was in, I think, 1936. And then it became a real farm where we started getting cows and pigs and chickens. And I thought it would be fun to milk the cattle. when they came in. And little did I know that would be my work from the rest of the time I lived on the farm. And so we every year my mother and I would milk one or two more cows, or maybe four more cows. We were each milking 9 cows, morning and night, of course. And then we went. The school was several miles away. We had to ride a big bus, but we had to walk to the school bus. And that was probably 3, maybe 4 miles down the road. And we walked that quite a while, and then somebody got the smart idea, to start picking us up and taking us down in the mornings. We could walk home. But if we were lucky, somebody come along and pick us up and bring us home. And then, of course, we had to go out and do our chores, and then the cattle, we only had a small farm, so the cattle was let out to a free range, and we had to figure out where they were grazing at for that day. But I was very lucky. There was a sawmill across from our farm, and the men at the mill pond would watch when my cows left the farm, so they'd tell me this way or that way, whichever direction they went. So that was a great help to me, to have to go out and get the cattle and go the wrong way. That was bad. So I was always thankful for the men. And
What year were you born?
I was born in 1926.
1926. And how old are you right now?
I'm 93.
Amazing. So you then grew up and then where did you move to next, or how did you meet your husband?
Oh, that was in 1948. I had grown up and left home and lived down in Oakland, California. And then I went back home, and I met this young fellow at a dance. And we dated 2 weeks and got married. But we had 52 years of a wonderful marriage and had 2 children, lovely daughter and son. And Barbara was a year older than Bob. And we did a lot with them. We camped and we fished, and we didn't hunt. Bill was not a hunter, but we did a lot of fishing and camping. And the children just loved that. And that was their favorite time of life, when we lived in that little town of Glendale, Oregon. And we did all of this. And then through the school, I was the room mother, and I always took goodies because I loved to cook. And I always took goodies, and sometimes I'd decorate them up really pretty and then hand them out to the children, and one gulp and all that work was gone.
I bet it was. So you lived in Oregon where your kids were born, right?
Right.
And how long did you live in Oregon, and then how did you end up in California?
I came down to California. Well, I left the farm and went to Portland first, right at the end of World War II. It was still going on. It hadn't been declared no war at that time. So my sister Opal was with me because her husband was overseas. And we went to Portland and lived with my oldest sister until Opal's husband came home. And then she just had to come back to Richmond, California. So I came back to California with them. But then I also went back again. And that's when I met Bill. And then in 48, we got married. And we had Barbara, we had Bob, and I gave them swimming lessons, which we had to go quite a ways to the next town of Grants Pass for swimming lessons. And then I took them back and forth every day for the first season. And then they had an aunt and uncle that lived there close to the swimming pool. So they kept them every summer while they were taking their lessons. And then where husband worked, and he was a lumber grader, and his sawmill burnt down. So we had to move, and we did not know where we wanted to go. So at first we were going to Washington, and then he decided, no, I don't like it up there. Where should we do it? I said, well, you're a number inspector. Ask your supervisor if there's an opening somewhere. They had 2 openings. One was in Arcata on the ocean, and one in Healdsburg. And I said, we'll take Healdsburg wherever it's at. So in 1961, we moved to Healdsburg. And the children, no place to live. Bill had his job. We couldn't find a place to stay even, but we just came with a few things in our car, and we went over to Richmond and stayed with my sister in Richmond, and Bill drove back and forth from Richmond for close to a month, and each day I would come with him, and I would go to the streets and ask, do you know anyone that has a rental? And I'd go in stores. Do you know anyone that has a rental? I went in the real estate. Is there any rentals available? we were desperate to have someplace to stay.
And that was 1961.
1961. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So finally, I was back over to Standard Structures because he was a hammer brander in Standard Structures, and I was in the office, and the man heard me say I was looking for a place to live. So he says, I have a place to live for just a few months, though. It's the summer months. My renters are school teachers, and they're in New York for the summer, and they'd like somebody to live in their apartment, duplex. So we took it, and we moved in with all their belongings. And then, and one day, I heard a couple men out in the kitchen window. The man said, I've never seen this place look so good. Well, I didn't know they had a gardener. So I was doing all the yard work and everything. So then there was the swimming at the river. One of the friends of the people that we were in their home would stop by in her van and chuck full of kids, and I think she had 7 or 8 kids of her own, and she picked up me and Barbara and Bob and took us down to the river, and then Bob and Barbara finished their swimming lessons down at the river. Well, and so that was very interesting. And then I found Moda Day. I went in there and I thought we had a little shop called Moda Day, and had dresses and underwear and just a few items. And the lady said, could I help you? And I said, yes, I would like that check. I would like that little dress in the window, but I have an out-of-state check. Well, where is it? And I said, well, it's in Grants Pass, but we live in a little town called Glendale. She said, anybody from Glendale can cash a check here any day. And she had lived in Glendale in 1936.
So no credit cards back then.
There might have been, but we didn't take out credit cards for many years later.
Yeah. So how'd you find your house?
Oh, finally, this house was up for sale, and Robert Malone, the school principal, owned it, and he had bought a new home and he was selling this one, so we got it on a Calvet loan, and we never had as much as $100 payment.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So for people who are just joining in, we're here on a special Mother's Day edition of our Live from Home. We're here with Lorraine Ham, who is one of our active members at the Senior Center and amazing cook. And she has lived here in Healdsburg since 1961, where she raised her family. So thanks for joining us. We have a couple shout outs for you. Mike Cochran says, Aunt Lorraine, you look great. Happy Mother's Day. And Michelle Brown says, my great Aunt Lorraine, lovingly known as Awesome Aunt Lorraine by my children. She is one of the most amazing women I know and a great example of what I aspire to be as I get older. Love her and so grateful to have her chosen to interview. Happy Mother's Day. So
Thank you, Michelle.
lots of good shout outs today for you. So growing up here, did your kids ever get into any trouble in town or anything like that?
Barbara didn't, but Bob did a little.
Yeah?
He loved to drive fast cars.
Oh my, tell us a little bit.
And then in his senior year, he had a very serious accident. That kind of slowed him down a little bit.
Wow.
But his favorite thing was stay away from the cops. Just keep going and make them hide from them, or say, "Oh, I was here when they catch me. Oh, I was here all this time. I wasn't out there."
That's great. So you raised 2 kids here, and now you have grandchildren too, right? Tell us a little bit about your family.
Barbara has 2 daughters, Teresa and Debbie. And Teresa, and when they were just toddlers, they lived over by Backville, and not that town, but another I don't remember. But they would come over when they were toddlers, and they'd stay with me. I'd had a ceramic shop in my home at that time, and they started learning how to make ceramics and doing everything the ladies did, and I had them all through until they outgrew me. They were in the 13, 14 years old, and they finally outgrew me. But I gave them all their swimming lessons. We had great times. I'd take them and their friends to the beach, and I'd take them other places on outings, and they had a great time, and lots of little picnics, and they had their birthdays were here, and I'd have the children hide their bicycles in the backyard, and one of my friends would take the children out somewhere, and they'd come home, and all these kids would be in the house, happy birthday. That was kind of exciting for them.
That's great. Another comment here. Jennifer Anderson says, I took ceramics with Mrs. Ham back in the 1980s. I loved spending time with her and the ladies, chatting, working with the greenware, painting, and then seeing the final product. She used to pour the slip into the mold herself. Gosh, she's wonderful. Best memories of that time. So your kids grew up. I understand you're quite the baker. In fact, I've had the opportunity to benefit from some of your baking, which is amazing. Tell us a little bit about how you became such a great baker.
Well, when I was 15, my mother passed away, and it left me and my father. It was World War II time, and my father and I were left on the farm. So I had all this milking to do begin with everything else. But anyway, all of a sudden I had to learn to cook, because we were poor, and I was never, it's my thoughts that we were poor and I was never allowed to cook because I might ruin it and we wouldn't be able to eat. That's my story. I'm staying to it. But anyway, I learned to cook, and I thought, this Thanksgiving came up, and I baked, what I did, dressing and pork chops. And I didn't know, I thought I was inventing this. And I was telling the lady that owned the sawmill, Bernie Schantzer, that I had made pork chops and baked them in the oven with dressing. And she said, it's good, isn't it? So I wasn't so smart after all. But then I decided to make some bread, nut bread. And I would take it to one of my school teachers with my homemade butter. And she'd be there in class eating my bread and butter while we were learning. And then when I got married, I decided, well, they need a 4-H lady. I'll be a 4-H leader. So I was a 4-H leader for a while and taught cooking. And many years later, we went to Washington to visit one of our neighbors that lived down there. And Rosalie said, Roger has a surprise for you. Roger just came out of the military. And I said, Roger has a surprise. And he had baked a cake. And I said, well, where did you learn to cook, Roger? He says, you taught me. So I did teach somebody something.
So you mentioned to me that you used to make pies for something.
Solar bowl out right back there.
So tell us a little bit about that. What was there? Where was that?
Pardon me?
Where was it? Where was Solar Bowl?
Oh, Solar Bowl was right behind the house.
So right on Healdsburg Avenue.
Right across the alley.
Yeah.
And so I decided, well, why don't I go to work there while the kids are in school? So I went there and worked in Solar Bowl. And then the lady asked me would I make pies. So I'd make the pies and bring them in. And almost as fast as I'd bring them in, they were gone. and they also loved my style of potato salad. That went real fast too. But I enjoyed everybody enjoying my baking. And then I don't know, I just, when I was first married, we lived no bakeries. So if you wanted something, even when I lived in the farms, you wanted something, somebody in the house had to make it. You just picked up a cookbook and did your thing.
Figured it out, right?
Right.
You figured it out. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing to keep busy during this time. So what's been going on?
Oh, during this
the pandemic, yeah.
Pandemic, I've had plenty of food in the house. Mark brought me some food one day through the city, and I thanked him, and I've used that to give people food. I would make them stews, or I'd make them whatever was in that box and take it to them for their dinners. And I also have my yard and my garden, and I love plants. So I've got many plants in the yard, and I just keep busy. And I don't turn TV on until late in the evening. And I just putter around or sit and think.
How are you staying connected with people? What are you doing as far as staying connected?
My cell phone. I probably drive everybody crazy. Texting them and emailing them and whatever.
Good.
But and then I have a friend that her husband is very ill right now, not expected to live, and I've been taking food to them quite often. And I've always been taking food to anybody anyway for any excuse.
So you've been helping out.
Right.
That's pretty amazing
Right.
that you're taking care of yourself and others
Yeah.
at the age of 93. I'm pretty impressed. So one of the things that you do for the community is you are one of the key people behind the Potluck Club.
Right.
And tell folks a little bit about the Potluck Club.
Oh my goodness. I joined Potluck Club, I don't know, many years ago. And we had a very flourishing group of people. And we had presidents and secretaries and all that. Well, it went as people passed away or moved away or couldn't come down anymore. It got less and less, and we just couldn't bring it back up. So it got down to about 14 people, and I decided we have to do something about this because everybody wanted us to do away with the club. And I know from nothing. And I spoke up and I said, as long as I'm a member, you're not going to close this club down. Little did I know. That's been, 5 years?
Probably.
So I've been the big chief bottle washer. Not really, but I have many amazing friends and people that come. They help me in the kitchen, help me set up and clean up, and I appreciate that very much.
And it meets when we're not in COVID-19 and sheltering in place, and it's safe to come back. It
meets the fourth Monday of every month.
Fourth Monday
at 5:30.
So if there's anyone out there who's interested, we will get through this, and when we come back together again,
please join. There's no fee.
And it's a great time, and
we have good entertainment. I go out and find entertainment for us each time. It could be musical. It could be somebody that took a wonderful trip to show their film. It could be a book writer. It just everything.
Yeah.
And we were going to have, maybe it depends on when we start back up, a butterfly lady bringing her cocoons and whatever they're all called. and given us a demonstration.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm looking forward to that. We can postpone that if we have to, but
eventually we'll be back.
Yeah.
So a couple more messages. Someone you may know, Robert Ham, says, "Hi Ma, you look great, Bob."
Thank you, Bob. Love you.
And there's another one down here. Someone else you may know, Angie from the Senior Center, says,
okay.
"Miss you so very much, Graham Ham," with 3 hearts.
Thank you, Angie. I love you too, all you girls too.
So you mentioned you're quite the gardener. Would you be interested in giving a little bit of a tour of your greenhouse?
Oh, sure I would.
All right. Well, we're going to try this. We'll see how this works on our Facebook live stream. So I got to maintain my physical distance here. I am going to step back, and I'm going to let Mrs. Ham take the lead. So tell us a little bit about this amazing redwood tree right here. You told me a story.
It was planted in 1961 when we bought the tree. When we bought the home, we could sit at our dining table where we were been sitting and see over the top of this tree.
Well, I'm going to give folks an idea. 1961 and today. Oops, I'm going to lose my camera there. It's quite a massive redwood tree. All good. So tell us what you got going on in here.
Oh, I have many plants to start, to give away to people. And I love to make plant starts and give people plants. So I've got lots of color this year. And I have a lovely friend that's got horses, and she keeps me with your horse manure. And that's keeping my greenhouse going fabulous. And I've also raised pineapple out here. I've had three pineapples as good as you could buy or eat in Hawaii. Nice and sweet. I leave them on the plant long enough that they are nice and sweet when I cut them off. And everybody's begging me, when are you going to make another plant? Well, one of these days I may surprise them.
Tell us a little bit about what's in here. Some of your different flowers.
Oh, the amaryllis. These amaryllis, they were beautiful a week ago. And I've had these for probably 6 years or 7 years. And they bloom in the summer, natural time. There's one in the door. We'll show you that going out, hopefully.
All right.
And this is the plant from Hawaii that you make leis out of. The flowers, I forget what it's called.
Beautiful.
And I started that. And this is an old-fashioned begonia. I love that big old thing. I take it out. So most of these things will come outside in a week or two if I can find a place to put them.
They're gorgeous. What's the yellow one right here? This yellow flower.
Oh,
right
that's a cactus. That's a new one. I've never had that before.
Wow, that's quite amazing.
And this is the amaryllis I'm talking about. I'll hang it I'll put it in my hand. Oops, there's the branch. You may have a start of a plant. Are you getting that one?
I got that one. That looks amazing. Amazing. So, can you give people some advice on, they've been sheltering in place now for almost 2 months, and tell what keeps you strong?
Just keep busy and keep your mind active. Don't dwell on what you can't do. Dwell on what you can do, and there's a lot you can do.
There sure
and
is.
Do of others. Do things for somebody. You don't have to go clear to their house inside. Meet them on the street and put whatever down. You take them flowers. You take them something that you baked, and they'll be your friend forever.
Well, gosh, Lorraine, on behalf of all of us at Community Services and all of us in the community, thank you for all that you do,
Well,
and
thank you.
wish you a very happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, Mark.